who am I? You already introduced me, which was great, but I can show you a little bit more. Oh, no, that's, oh, so much happening with that one. Here I am. Yeah, so thank you for mentioning my work with UC Berkeley Extension. It's one of my favorite jobs. I know I've got a student out there, and I'm not saying that just because I saw your name there, Kevin. But I also have worked with a colleague, Laura Bowles-Faw, on this REAP project, Re-Energize Activate process. We have a website, you can check it out. But really, I wanted to just mention that it's all about giving people, adults, youth, a voice, a safe place in which to speak, and helping them find the proper tools to do so. So that is where I'm at. This is what City Studio does. And that is what Youth Art Workshop does. I mean, that is what we all try to do. Oh, hang on. Go back to that. Oh, see how good I am at this? Okay. Challenges, challenges, challenges. Yeah, when this all hit, like City Studio's regular programming was really ground to a halt. Like, how do you do after school programs when you can't meet in person? How you really have to reinvent, reimagine, and rethink all those tried and true practices that you've been doing. And then you need to create new ones. So with that being said, you get to see another picture of Tom. This project came out of a talk with Kat Trateris, who is this wonderful director of programs and partnerships at SFAI, and we were just having a normal talk, and we just started talking about the Open Drawing Studio, which has been at SFAI for decades. Free Friday, late afternoon, early evening programming in Studio 13 since the 50s. And of course it was on, you know, it was not happening right now. And I'm like, oh, well, my artists are free, you know, and I wanted to get my, hang on, I'm just gonna admit somebody. I wanted to get my artists some work, and I wanted to give our youth that were missing their teachers, their community, the opportunity to connect. So I created an all ages life drawing series that is up on the web 24 hours a day. We've got three sessions that are already up. We've got 3 more in the can now that we're like a film studio. We've like created this whole film studio setup with Christopher Paddock, who you see there, who has been, it was his enthusiasm and acumen with website development and filmmaking that really made this happen. And there's this really incredible tool that we have created during this time. Hang on a second. I'm just going to show you this tool. Okay, so here we are. And here I'm going to not show you Tom's because we'll see a lot of him. But Tom definitely did do one. Let's do do Steph's spooky horror drawing show. This was right before Halloween. So you see there's our setup. And the really cool thing, or one of the really cool things about this, number one, it's available anytime, but you can see different, we had different cameras, so you can see different angles. You can see the model. You can choose your seat. So if you want to see for the right-hand side, oh, hi, Steph. Or you can go from the left. We'll just all this. It's all the intro. But let's see. Let's go to like the 15 minutes, and then all different types of poses. We do warm-ups each time, you know, like a life drawing class. And then I am the model. It's true. I was doing a lot of the modeling for this section. There you can see me in my witch's hat. But you can see different views. So I just think this is great for sculptors. It's great for drawers. You can go back time and again, and you can really focus. You can freeze frame it if you want to get more involved in it. For Tom's episode, he was really great. We did more of a portrait class, so you can go more in depth on the face. Anyway, so we are still working this out. We are planning season 2 for the spring, and hopefully it'll be able to be more interactive. Hopefully we can get actual bodies in there as well. And we've got a place where you can put your drawings that you've done, because one of the other great things about you know, a drawing class is the interaction with the teacher, with the guide. So we have a place where you can submit the drawings as well. Maybe we can get some real-time synchronous feedback or something. We're still working all that out. But so that was one of the things that we kind of created during COVID. And yeah, so as I was saying, it's all about collaborating with trusted colleagues and mentors. Here is another project that came to me really through a conversation with an old friend, Justin Hoover, who was talking about doing this class with, well, actually I had spoken at his class last spring. This all started last spring. In real life, I was walking down the street and I saw Justin and a bunch of teens, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And he's like, oh, we're taking over this house. And we just started talking. He's like, you want to do an artist talk? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So I went in and I talked to them about City Studio and about some of the work I've done. And it just turned into this fall collaborating with both Justin and Chris Treggieri about creating these murals in all around San Francisco. And then we just finished a wheat pasting series. We worked at Dia de los Muertos in Fruitvale, putting up an altar. And then, so it was part Zoom and part in real life. And I can show you a few more images from this project. Okay, so we did a series of 4 murals on Haight Street, and this is one in front of Kate's Kitchen. This one over here is a friend who lives on the block, is a friend of my 12-year-old, so he came to help us, which was really great. And here this was another one on the CVS. And here's a really beautiful, this is just a small bit of a beautiful one of the huge Walgreens wall in the Mission. So really very successful mural project. It was written about in Hoodline, which is cool. You can see, I think, some more of the images. Here are more of the youth painting. Oh, this is Tom did a mural. These are Tom's kids, which was really wonderful. And see, yeah, here's a good one. This is in process. Here's the finished Kate's Kitchen. I love this one. And this one was kind of on the spot. This was such an interesting way that this was created, because they hadn't finalized the mural, but somehow we got there, and one of our talented teens had done this drawing of California poppies and talking about trans lives and whatnot. And I'm like, we had a couple of, we're trying to socially distance while doing these murals, of course, so we can't have too many kids, too many youth on the same projects. So we had some extra, I'm like, all right, what about, and I pitched it like on the spot to the Kate's Kitchen people right there. What about if we did California poppies? And I spoke with the artist and we created that, on the site. Usually with murals, you have a little bit more time to create the content, but this kind of just happened, and it was just one of those really wonderful things when everything works together. So that, you can see I'm pretty excited about this project. And we're talking about spring. We're actually finishing, we're having our final Zoom session on Saturday, and then we are planning on doing some work together in the spring. Also a mixture, depending on what happens, a mixture of Zoom classes and screen printing classes. And I'm hoping to do something with some more installation, because that was really kind of so mind-blowing and so exciting for the youth. So here we are in front of the Deappropriation Wall on Valencia Street. If you don't know about it, ask me afterwards. I'm happy to explain it. All of these posters behind the youth they had created basically they took the idea of Seeds of Change from that big mural on Walgreens, and were thinking about change and what they wanted to see. happen in their neighborhoods, in their world. So we created these posters and put them up on this wall that invites responses. And it's such a great way that you add to the conversation on this wall. And that was very exciting and empowering for them. And I'm almost done with my thing. I'm going to pass it over to Tom in a minute. And here he is during his drawing workshop. And I can introduce him. And that's the thing you want to do during this time. You want to rely on trusted colleagues. And here is Tom's website. More about Tom. Tom has been working with City Studio for a number of years now. And when I was thinking, and he's really a fantastic artist as well, you can see this is a work in process, very detail oriented, really just very provocative stuff. The color is incredible, but I'll let Tom speak a little bit more about that. He got his MFA from SFAI, but that's not where I met you, Tom. And stop me if this is wrong. I was trying to think like, okay, how did you come into City Studio's fold? But I was helping at a previous program that I had done years ago, and you were working there, the Meridian Interns program. That's how I met you. Anybody who works there is just a great person in all respects. So a great program, challenging program. Okay, I've got one more slide. And here's Tom doing his thing with some of his youth from the Columbia Park Boys and Girls Club. And here you can see he is a beloved teacher. So they're all piling on him to say thank you this was one of our end of semester exhibitions. Remember when we used to can hug each other? Look at this. Isn't that like, wow? That is just really one day, hopefully one day soon. And there you have it. That's my spiel for now, talking a little bit about how we're managing in this current climate. And I know Tom's got a bunch of things to share as well. And thank you, Sophia. You're totally on it in the chat. So I'm going to throw it over to Tom, and then we'll again have time for everybody to have their say.
Cool. Thanks so much, Amy. Yeah, I believe it was the Meridian Gallery Interns program, which was kind of like one of my first starts teaching. Dewey Crumpler suggested I do it. And so I called, I can't remember her name now. Who ran that when you took over again? It was Tony and...
Oh, Anne.
Tony and Anne, right. And they were really great to work with. And that's kind of how I got my foot in the door with teaching in San Francisco. Anyway, well, you showed the slide that I was going to show.
Oh, sorry, Tom.
No, it's okay. That's totally fine. I actually, let's see, let me figure out how to play from the start. So as Amy was saying, I'm kind of focusing this talk a little bit about like how I'm surviving, or like how we could kind of like just manage. I definitely can't act like it's been easy. And especially since, COVID happening and all of that, all the after school programs are kind of gone, they kind of disappear. So we've had to reinvent and manage and figure out how to continue or to reinvent. And so I've been doing my best to try to adapt to that. So this is how I'm surviving as an artist so far. So I was describing I was at like a family thing a year ago, and I was describing to my uncle, who's an actor, how I'm kind of like working at a few different places here and they're picking up work. And he's like, oh, you're cobbling together a living. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's kind of what I am. That's a really good way of putting it. So that's how I describe it now, is that I'm taking a little work here, a little work there, a little there. And I'm kind of getting all this experience in different places, and together it's a living. So I don't have like a full-time job, but I work full-time at a bunch of different places. Amy already kind of talked about the City Studio program at SFAI, which has been, just like phenomenally great experience. So I'm going to talk about a couple of the other places that I've kind of been working with, and other ways I've kind of managed to survive under COVID. And of course, if you guys have any questions, just interrupt me. I like being interrupted, so don't hesitate. One of the places I've been working at since I graduated so I'm from Indiana originally. I'm from Indianapolis, and I got my BFA at IU Bloomington. And then I moved here in 2015 to attend SFAI. And I studied painting primarily. And once I graduated, I first started working at this place called Drawn to Art in Los Altos, which maybe you've heard. They have a sister school called Artworks in kind of near Twin Peaks. So they have like a similar spot nearby, but this is a great program. It's a really big program. I think at our prime, we had about 700 students. Classes are pretty affordable. And, you know, they were employing several different artists as teachers. And the great thing about this program was that it teaches you how to teach. And so it's been a really positive influence. Felicita Norris was working there for a long time as well, which is another SFAI graduate who I was good friends with and worked with. And she kind of got me in the door here. And so I just started working with kids like constantly. And I had never worked with like young children before. I kind of went into the room and saw a bunch of like 4-year-olds at desks, and I was like, oh, I don't know. But I kind of got into it and kind of found a knack for it and learned how to communicate not just with like young children and adults, but like teenagers and everything in between, because we have classes for everybody. And the great thing about this program is that it centers its focus around learning development. So it's not just about creating art. We learn art in a way that increases confidence and focus in young artists and young children. I think that's like the really rewarding thing about it. Since COVID, enrollment obviously went way down. And so things got a little bit complicated. So we started doing a mix of online and in person. But the in-person it's worked pretty well. We're very, very strict about it. And I'm doing a few of those classes where everyone's 6 feet apart. We're all wearing masks. The kids follow all the rules. They're doing really great. They've totally adapted, probably better than me, which is really inspiring. And we sanitize the rooms constantly. So it's something I definitely recommend for people who have young kids who want them to get back into an environment and feel comfortable doing that. I think Drawn to Art's a great way to go. And I've had a great time working there. Online teaching is also an option too, though, and it's available for everyone. You don't have to live in Los Altos or the Bay Area because it's online. That's one of the good things about it, is that you can access people from different places. And it's been a really successful program because I'll just show you really quick one of the videos that we use. Basically, we design all these videos, and then we play them for the online class, and then the teacher facilitates. So they walk you through. This week was how to draw a Yeti. So the teaching artist here walks you through how to like see all the shapes, all the circles, all the different lines, using pretty good language, and then they build the drawing for you, and the students work along with it, which has been really great. You know, it's been able to keep a lot of artists employed and able to keep us kind of like active and working. It's kept the business afloat. So this is one of the best ways I've found to teach children online, is to use videos. However, I've also worked for other educational formats that doesn't work as well. I'm going to go through that next when I find my slides again. There it is. So in addition to working for them, I also I teach art classes through Google. So I teach adults. This is also not just for Google employees, it's really for everyone, but it's just something we've gotten started since COVID began. We realized online teaching was a pretty convenient format, despite the fact that we don't like all of the aspects about it. And so we were able to offer online art classes to Google employees, which we are trying to expand. So I've been teaching sketchbook classes. I've been teaching oil painting classes, and it's really been a huge learning experience because I've had to learn how to make demo videos and be a videographer basically in order to teach them and give them, you know, the materials that they need, the information they need. And time-lapse videos have worked really well for that. It's been a huge learning curve. I've learned about a lot of things that don't work, but it's very rewarding when I find the things that they do. This is also like a totally self-directed. Google really doesn't have a whole lot to do with it. It's mostly just me and the other teachers and one of the employees there who's on an arts council who kind of just facilitates everything. So it's really all up to us. It's very self-directed. And if anyone wants more information about that, I'd be glad to share it with you because it's kind of an in the rough program. I also work and have been working for a long time now for Strathmore Paper as their Bay Area representative. So what I've done for them in the past is I've traveled to different Bay Area art programs, and LA as well. I'll go to LA and I visit the art program. Just as example, UC Santa Cruz or Fullerton College, um, SFAI, CCA. I go to all those schools. I visit different drawing classes, and I give an informative and fun and hopefully inspiring lecture on paper and art supplies, which I really love to do. Um, Obviously, COVID interrupted this as well. So what we did was we pivoted to the online format for the Strathmore's education program, which had its benefits. So no longer do I have to, fly to LA 3 times a year, which actually I liked doing. But I can do a talk at UC San Diego from my room, which is kind of a weird and profound thing. Um, but so this is also like another like self-employed thing where they contract me to do these lectures, and then I do them at whichever class will have us. And the great thing about these talks is that Strathmore will send the class free supplies. They'll send you a big packet of all these different types of paper, a bunch of different art supplies, pencils, pens, really good stuff that is not always accessible to all students. So it really gives you a lot of free things and free information. It's a really good program that I'm really happy to work for. Another aspect of surviving, and this is kind of like the boring part of it, is just keeping your head above water financially. So I included this slide just because I feel like it's something I usually end up thinking about a lot more than I think I have to. It's just like managing income, because you can really get in trouble if you're not saving a certain amount and then taxes come around the next year, and then you owe all this money and you don't know how to pay it. So you don't want to avoid that situation. So I've basically developed a system where I'm saving everything art related, and then basically filing my taxes as an artist all around. So everything kind of cobbles together into one thing, and I can kind of apply as a Section C person. And it's been the best way for me to manage that. And it's taken a few years to get the most out of it. I guess I can elaborate on that later if people want to, because it's kind of hairy, but it's been really important for me, especially as someone who's making, some amount one month and then maybe a lot less the next month, because I'm working in several different places. So for me to understand what's going on annually with me gives me a lot of freedom and knowing where my situation actually is. Then just about me, I'm an artist. So the reason I'm operating my living this way, where I'm like working a little bit here, a little bit there, is so I have free time to be an artist and make art when I can. And I've got a couple different bodies of work that I'm just going to show you briefly. This painting's at the De Young Open right now, which is a really great exhibit. If you guys haven't had the chance to see it yet, I think the De Young's closed its doors for the next 2 weeks because of the spike in COVID cases. But when it comes back up, I definitely recommend you going and seeing it, because it's amazing. There's like 800 local artists in the De Young. It's massive. It's like, it takes me an hour to get through the 8 galleries, and then I'm totally overwhelmed with visuals, which is great because we don't get to see painting shows very often now. So these are pieces that I've made, which
Can you do a view so that we can actually see it? Because you're
oh,
in presenter, you're not in presenter view. It's pretty small on the screen. Thanks.
of that. I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was doing that. There you go. So these paintings, this is just my quick artist statement. They explore the fluidity of perception. So the idea of memories, ideas, and beliefs morphing over time and kind of changing. So I'm trying to visually illustrate that basically, to communicate to the viewer the ephemerality of memory and truth, which is a really fun thing for me to kind of talk about. See, there's just some pieces that I've developed over the years that kind of like are a part of this larger body of work, which are on at the De Young Museum. And then I'm also working with a local gallery, Voss Gallery, with the paintings I call the pixel paintings. So I basically make like video game inspired images, and on small panels in acrylic, and I stencil them, and it's a lot of work. But that's another thing I'm really interested in is kind of the labor involved with these pieces and how I can kind of create like nostalgic feelings using painting. So that's another thing I'm on and off involved in. And then online teaching in general. I don't love it. It's not super equitable. It's not really great for everybody, but I think you have to be positive about it anyway, because I think it can do some different things. So here's are some things that I have learned that have been really helpful for me in pursuing online teaching with not only like younger people, but older people as well. Definitely don't make the class super long. You gotta give them the info and then kind of like let them go. So one of the good things about this is that they can work on a project and when it's convenient for them. You know, they don't have to be at a class at 9 a.m., maybe on the other side of the city where it might be really difficult to get to. And they can kind of get it done when they can. So leaning into that flexibility, I think, has been really helpful. Recording lectures or demos is beneficial because they can access them at any time. They don't have to remember the one thing that you told them that one time. They can go back to it and watch it again, which I think is an interesting and very helpful thing. A lot of like the young artists I've worked with are already addicted to YouTube anyway. So they're used to watching tutorials on how to make things. So I've kind of just adapted to that a little bit. I'm not a YouTuber, I'm a teacher, which took me a little bit of time to accept because, you know, I just don't have that same sort of like business sense. But it has been good to kind of like watch some of those things and kind of learn from other people on how they kind of design and make like a quick demo entertaining and have it communicate something meaningful. So leaning into the flexibility, being open and approachable. Everyone's dealing with this all in different ways, and with students, it can be profoundly difficult for them as well, especially since they're young. So just being open to the opportunity to negotiate. Before COVID, I was a lot less flexible teacher, and now I've learned to be very flexible because I would rather the students learn like a little bit than nothing at all. And that's kind of what it comes down to for me is like, well, okay, they're not going to do everything. They might do 80% of it. I'll be lucky if they do 50% of the stuff right. I would rather they do that like 25 to 50% of the thing than they not do anything at all. And for me to be able to just get that from them, I have to like, you know, really be flexible, be open, and, you know, really listen to the things that they're saying. So other aspects, I don't love making like demo videos, but I've learned some really cool things, some skills that I would not have learned otherwise. I definitely recommend Adobe. It's only like $20 a month if you're a teacher to get all of those products. So I've been able to update Photoshop and things like that. It's been really helpful. Once again, don't make them too long. Short and sweet is pretty much always the answer. And then one of the big things was like asking beforehand what platforms students are most likely to respond to. Because like I love Gmail, but not all my students do. Like sometimes like Instagram messages works better if that's the thing that they use and they pay attention to. So like, you know, a lot of the platforms that we maybe use, maybe they aren't very good for them. So you kind of want to like ask and see what they're into and what's helpful for them. Also take care of yourself. I go for a lot of walks. I try to eat healthy, and then I try to relax when it's appropriate. I've definitely been guilty of overexerting myself before, and that's always bad. So knowing your limits is like key to, it's been really, really important for like more important than I thought it was going to be to managing everything that I'm doing. I think that's all I have.
Tom, you're such a superstar. I'm looking at that presentation. I'm like, yes, that's why I invited him. That's why he's one of like the greatest city studio teachers. He just knocks it out of the park every time. And I'm so thankful that you're part of my team. So thank you. So that's a little bit about what we've been doing, reinventing stuff, thinking about how to use the current technology to the best use. But we'd love to hear from some of you. You know, I know a lot of you guys are artists and teachers as well. And how are you managing? Or any questions about what we've presented or anything at all? Let's open it up.
Hi, Tom. Thank you for the amazing presentation. I guess I have a question. I mean, it's related, but maybe it's slightly off topic. But what are you most looking forward to, or how do you imagine this experience with moving to an online platform because of COVID? Once we can reopen and you can teach again in person, how do you anticipate what might change, or what are you the most excited about?
Well, I think I am kind of excited for things to be back to normal. I think like everybody is. So one of the big things about online teaching that I had to accept was I'm a little bit more of an entertainer in a different way. So before an art class is like 3 hours long, you know, at SFAI or wherever, and you talk for like 15 minutes and then everyone does their own thing. And then you go around individually and you're like, oh, you know, change this. It's like more of an individual experience. Whereas like the online, you know, it's like a 90-minute class and you feel like you have to fill the thing with a bunch of extra stuff. And a bunch of extra stuff always distracts people because too much information is not good. That just means you get no information because there's too much to process at once. So learning to keep things kind of short and sweet was helpful. What I'm looking forward to is using the online format to work for people who don't have access to a studio or don't have access to like a regular school. I know there's a lot of communities, especially rural communities, that just don't have art. Like in Indianapolis, kind of where I'm from, we don't have a Boys and Girls Club like we do at SFAI, and we don't have a Drawn to Art, and we didn't have an art. We have an art school, but it's not quite up to the SFAI or CCA kind of level. So I think, you know, giving people the access to some of the resources that we have across the country is something that I'm kind of looking forward to. I think that's going to be a really positive change to this. Yeah, and then I can kind of teach anywhere I want to. That's kind of fun, right? I could go on vacation or something and like still have my online teaching job. That could be fun.
Yeah, I just want to add to that too. I think having the opportunity to connect with like-minded communities around the world. Sorry, I'm really distracted. That's my former student Jennifer and her adorable child.
I was looking at that
I
too.
just got to see, so that was like, oh my God, that's the baby. Sorry. She is now, this is another great success story. She was a student of mine at Berkeley Extension, and now she's teaching Sacramento City College, anyway, and had a baby. Really wonderful.
Sierra College.
Thank you, Jen.
She's so
Sierra
big,
College.
right?
She's huge. She's huge. Sorry.
I get to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
with
One
her
more.
all the time. That's how I'm surviving COVID.
Yeah.
Tom, I was wondering if you could talk more about the Google courses you're teaching, and are they open to the public, and where do you find them, and that kind of stuff?
You know, if you send me put your email in the chat, I can make sure that our facilitator for that includes you in the next round of classes, which are going to start in early January. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing that we did on the fly. What happened was Felicita Norris and I both had a student who works for Google and was involved with their arts council, and they were looking to have classes, so we offered to teach them. So just kind of like word of mouth happened, and then yeah, they are available to everyone. I mean, we're doing it through them, but I think there's no reason it can't be going to everyone. You know, the more students, the better for me, I think. So yeah, I'd love to see you there. I'll be teaching oil painting again, beginning and advanced, and then Felicita Norris usually teaches drawing. She usually teaches acrylic painting. We have a watercolor teacher now too. So, you know, we're hoping it's something that can kind of expand over time.
So, and how does that work, Tom? So Google pays you, and then it's just free to.
Okay.
What?
The students pay me directly, so it's
The
almost
students-
like I'm doing a private class, but
Okay.
advertised through their.
I see. How much is it per class?
For my 8-week classes, I'm charging $370, I think, for an 8-week course.
Okay.
So what you're getting is like a lot of me emailing you, and then I think with the main things that I kind of like am thinking about with the advantages to that is that like if you're just learning to paint off of like a video, you're not getting critique from a professor. So a big part of the class is like everyone emailing me their images of their projects that week and me kind of going through each one and explaining to everyone how different ways to kind of improve their work, which is different from a regular critique, but has some advantages to it. Like an online critique has its advantages, it has its disadvantages. You know, I feel like I'm losing like the transcendence of the piece, but at the same time, I'm able to sort of like have the image on the screen. Everyone can see it very clearly, and I can kind of like draw on it. I can be like, okay, well, this perspective here is like literally this, and I can literally with my annotate notion on the Zoom, I can like draw and show you how perspective should be differently. So there's a very direct way of showing people how to see differently, which is nice. So it's, you know, up and down with that. And yes, I will email you, Nikki. copy all that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, could I just ask another? I'm curious about because you mentioned the annotate function, and I'm curious for you or for any of the other teachers here, how much that plays a role in your online teaching, like when you're actually in the screen and you can do something like Tom's perspective example or other things like that. Well, I know it's different drawing on a screen, but how has that been working for people?
Well, if I may interject again, it's good for the younger students that I teach. So for those videos that we've made for the younger kids, it breaks down the image in 4 steps. And then after each step, they hold their drawing up to the camera, which is a lot of like, I'm like, no, lower, up, no, in front of your face. Like that's the whole, it's a lot of that. But after that, I take a picture of their drawing and then I can annotate and show them this circle goes here. This square is next to that square. Do you see that? And then I can pull up the breakdown image that they're drawing from and their image at in the same place next to each other, and I can kind of compare them, which you can kind of do in person too. But that's one of the ways we're kind of trying to bridge the gap. So it's actually, I'm very thankful for the Annotate tool. I like the Annotate tool a lot.
One thing that I just want to, I don't know, say again, reaffirm, is what Tom was saying about bringing it to communities that don't have the access. And I think that's a really wonderful thing that we've gotten from this time of online teaching, and that we can move forward in times when we will get together again. But there are people that can't. Like now this remote drawing studio can go to people with disabilities that may not have been able to attend the drawing class but want to do a life drawing class. They can do it from their own homes, you know, now, or people in more rural communities, or people all over the world can connect through these opportunities. And I think that's really fantastic positive outcome from this experience. But it's really, and I'm just going to blather now unless somebody stops me, it's really forcing you to think about things in new ways. And that's just kind of what being an artist is, or being in a creative field. It's like how you come up with against a stop, and how do you move beyond it? How do you figure it out? It's like a puzzle. And it's like, okay, how can we rethink this thing to make it workable in what we've got? And that's just, you know, that's kind of fun in a way. It's creative, and it's a way of just moving things forward. And if you can create community and collaboration along the way, that is, you know, that is the bonus for it. You know, I mean, these Zoom calls, look at this, you know, this is just amazing that this technology exists and that we can all get together and connect in this way. And, you know, something about, does anybody feel that students are more open with the screen than they would be in real life? Like, you know, art classes are so emotional and so intense, you know, and sometimes students can be a little bit hesitant, but, you know, they show themselves through their work. But having that divide of not being in person, I feel people are being even more open. Is anybody else feeling that?
I think sometimes, yeah. I think I definitely, it takes them a little bit to kind of really like get used to it. But once they start to feel comfortable talking to you over the weird camera thing, like they start to open up, and then I have to mute them because I can't get them to be quiet. And I feel like that's when I get to that point, that's a good sign. That means that they've adapted to it so they can still learn. And I think you're right, Amy. It's kind of like cool that we're all like in the same thing, because like how hard would it have been to get us all on like we would have had to found like a classroom. So it would have been like lunchtime at SFAI when like the classroom wasn't being used, and then try to get people from all over the city to meet for the same thing. So like I think having, and I miss that. I do miss having like the little seminars. I like being in person. I'm an in-person person. I'm an extrovert. But having the option for people who aren't, I think is going to bridge a lot of gaps for people.
Yeah.
So retaining what we've learned is like really important. And you know,
Sorry, go on. as long as it's one tool out of many and not the only tool that we have, I think, yeah, these Zoom meetings they're not going away. We've all learned a lot from them, and we can, now we don't all have to rush around for a meeting. We can just do it now. Of course, there's nothing like in person with your students. And I was so lucky that we were able to do a lot of in real life mural making and print making with these teens. And that really meant the world to me and the other teachers and to them, because they hadn't done anything like that in real life. And it made it such a special experience. Like, oh my God, on a Saturday, I am seeing people in real, physically, and we've of course masked, and I could not get enough hand sanitizer in everybody's hands, but we made it work, and it was really it was a great program. So that I was so thankful that we were able to do that.
Yeah, I was just looking at Trina's comment, and I think you're right. I think it's going to be a hybrid of both, and I think I kind of have stopped thinking of this as one big crisis and just a bunch of tiny crises that I deal with weekly, but I think it's definitely changed things, and quite possibly for the better. We have more options and opportunities for people to participate, and it's made me really appreciate in-person contact when I can do it. So while I'm thankful for the opportunity to do some of the online formats, when I can actually teach in person, like we were doing for the mural, it was like, yeah, dude, it's Saturday. I get to be around people again. I'm going to be as silly as possible probably today. I won't even be able to control it because I'm just happy to be around other people. And it's made me a lot more thankful for that, a lot more grateful. And, I hear from everyone that, practicing gratitude is like one of the big things, that's keeps you sane. So I think when we can, it's a really good thing. And there are in-person opportunities out there. That's part of the reason I wanted to talk about Drawn to Art, is because we're trying to make that work. Because for some students, that is kind of the only option. Like, they're going to have to be in person. It's really hard for me to show a 4-year-old how to draw if I can't be there and show them with the pencil in my hand. I'm like, no, hold it like this. And so sometimes we're going to have to do one, and other times we're going to have to do the other. And so to be able to do both is going to be, I think, really, really important in the future.
Well, with those words of gratitude, it is almost 1 o'clock. I am so thankful that all of you signed on today and shared this experience with us. I hope you will take Tom's Google classes. I hope you take our remote life drawing, all ages. I am modeling in many of them, and you'll get to see my smallest son. We modeled together last time. We did a remote learning situation. I'm on my phone checking email. He's reading a book. It was pretty great. Please be in touch. aberk@sfai.edu. I'd love to hear from you, connect with you. I'd love to see some of your drawings from the life drawing series. And thank you, Youth Art Workshop, Youth Art Summit. Really fantastic work that you guys do. And let's keep collaborating in the future.